Wealth, Yoga, Wine. Welcome to my podcast. I'm Valerie Hale. Do you know how many miles it takes to turn around a luxury liner, a cruise ship? It takes 7 miles to turn a cruise ship in another direction. Mary Morrissey teaches us this concept, this truth, in one of her Morning Mentor videos called Ocean of Possibilities. When it takes time, when it becomes your time to make big changes in your life, she teaches us there are 2 very quick, easy steps to take in order to change your life, to turn your ship around. The first one is, I am. When you begin saying to yourself, I am building my dream house. I am improving my health. I am finding the love of my life. You have begun turning your life around in the way that you want, in the direction that you want. Furthermore, she stresses that the other second quick step is up until now. That translates into, up until now, things were financially difficult. Or, up until now, I was having health issues. Up until now, I was dating the wrong people. Both of these statements you can start saying immediately, and it will turn your ship in the direction that you want to make big changes in order to reach a big goal. What's important about saying these statements, they literally change the path in your subconscious, because it's your subconscious that controls your conscious. I know that's a bit woo-woo. When you begin to say over and over to yourself, I am making these changes, I am turning my ship around, you have begun a process that will become much easier. Big changes are painful. Mary understands this. Turning a luxury cruise ship around takes time, takes patience, but it's important to know where you're heading. When you say those 2 statements over and over again, you know where you're heading. As Pritchett says, who is the guru of mergers and acquisitions, it's important to know where you're heading. It is not important to know how. With Kundalini Yoga, which I have practiced for over 26 years every day, and it is the mother of all yogas, practicing Kundalini Yoga is vastly similar to making these 2 statements. Because when you practice specific kriyas, think of them as exercises, you are also changing the neural pathways in your brain. That, in essence, also changes the hormones. Again, the happy hormones, oxytocin, endorphin, serotonin, you're increasing them naturally. I am a proponent and a strong believer in having our children and our teenagers learn yoga. While I believe strongly that Kundalini Yoga is the answer to improving their lives, any yoga at a young age will give them mind control, mind and body coordination. They have better ability in communicating and just better human beings. The video that I include most of the time on my podcast details is with Guru Jagat and Howard Prakash. I happen to love the one with Guru Jagat and Shiva Rose because they start laughing immediately into their video. I do this first thing in the morning, and what's a better way to enjoy your life by waking up, doing yoga, and laughing? This also is important to do yoga to help you in challenging times of your life. I am including a beautiful song called A Call, which will help the passing of a loved one, even if it's a pet, the passing into their next life. Whether you believe in heaven or wherever you are spiritually, this is a beautiful song that is calming for them, and it's calming for you. It's beautiful music that you can listen to if you have had the death of a close friend or your close pet. I am going through this now with an amazing human being who passed untimely. He was in 4-stage cancer, so stage 4 cancer. Even though we knew that Jim Cerna was going to die, it's still tragic. It's heartrending. We cry. He has left an amazing legacy behind, however. That legacy, one of the reasons I love him so much is because he is a Francophile like me. He is the guru of Burgundies and Bordeaux's. His shop, his store, his cave is what it looks like. It's called West Palm Wines. If you are ever in the Tampa area, this is truly an adventurous wine store. It's in Ybor City, which is also an adventurous area around Tampa. You can spend hours in this store, and you can spend thousands of dollars, or you can spend $20. Mark Lasky, who is also a good friend, has taken over the helm. He has worked side by side with Jim Cerna 4 years, 23 to be exact. Another reason that I love Jim Cerna is because he rescued feral cats. And he built somewhat of an apartment for them in the store. One would never know this, except I did, because I love cats. And I love that Jim Cerna collected the feral cats, made this apartment for them, he fed them, he took care of them. I still haven't found out what has happened to the feral cats, but I can promise you, before Jim died, he made sure they went to a good home. Just the fact that he had this little apartment for these feral cats, it shows what an amazing human being he was. He cared for so many things. And yes, he was a lover of Burgundies and fine Bordeaux's, but he also made sure he had fine Champagne for his wife, Katie. You have to love him for that also. The notes, in my podcast notes, I will have the website. It's worth it to sign up for their newsletter. Mark Lasky writes funny newsletters, but it's also educational. I can't stress enough how important it is for you to go to West Palm Wines, even if it's via the internet. They do ship, by the way, via FedEx. I want to give a shout out to women in wine who are behind the scenes. The person who I have the most admiration for is Janus Robinson. The reason being is she was one of the first women wine writers and wine critics. She has co-authored one of the most important atlases with Robert Johnson, and it is called the World Atlas of Wines. I have used this many, many times in my research when I write an article or when I'm doing my podcast. The World Atlas of Wines. It's an older book. This information in these older books never goes out of being current. The reason being, the information is historical. It specifically talks about terroir. It specifically talks about the history. You can't find everything on the internet. I have quite a collection of wine books. The other book that I like from her is called Vines, Grapes, and Wines. I have used that also in my research, largely because I love to talk about esoteric grapes. She does admirable job of talking about varietals for which we have never heard, talks about the countries from which they're used the most predominantly. I also have huge respect for her because she's the only one who has ever come up against Robert Parker, who is an American. She is British. He is an American who became famous for being also a wine writer and a wine critic. My point of view with Robert Parker is he bases everything on ratings. I have a huge problem with that. All Europeans, when they are going to choose a wine, they think of what they're having for lunch or dinner. They know enough about the wine to understand, usually, the flavor profile and what they're having for dinner. That is one of the reasons I generally talk about food and wine pairing in this segment of the podcast. Robert Parker describes the wines. However, he very, very rarely talks about the kind of foods they go with, whereas Janus Robinson always ties that in, 90% of the time. They had an internet tiff, I would say. The internet called it a war of the words. And she stood by her critique in 2003 of Chateau Pavie. I'm just saying. Janus Robinson is truly one of the best wine critics. If you want to learn more about wine, she teaches a great online school. Again, I think it's a 12-episode segment on BBC. It's all on DVD, and I believe you can get it, you can download it and teach yourself really great information from her wine class. In conclusion, it is really important to turn that ship around and realize that that ship is going to take a while to head in the direction where you want to be. I am successful in being a podcaster. I am a great teacher. I am becoming successful as a parent. That I am is forceful. The second statement, up until now, how you get that ship turning. Be patient. Understand when you're taking on big changes, painful, but these two statements are going to help you turn that ship around in the direction you want to be. Kundalini Yoga is another scientific tool that will help you and your children control your thoughts, your mind, your body. Powerful, powerful stuff. Listen to the song A Call if you're experiencing a death in your life, whether it's even a pet, will help them pass quickly and healthy and spiritually. Lastly, Janus Robinson is so worth your checking her out. It's in my podcast details. So is Jim Cerna's store. Hook yourself up to his collection, to his newsletter. Enjoy life the richest way possible with good wine and good food. Lastly, I am not a life consultant. I am not a life teacher. I create this podcast once a week to help hundreds of people globally. This is my new career. You can donate on Patreon. I take PayPal, Zelle, Venmo. It is my pleasure to serve my listeners. Merci. Au revoir.